Man, it is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Such a beautiful day for a neighbor. Hey, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? That doesn't always work for a pickup line, by the way. Alright, so today, as you may have guessed, we are talking about the one and only Mr. Rogers. Fred Rogers was the type of man who, well, he's hard to describe because there's literally no one like him, which is notable because during the 33 years of his television show, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, he taught that the viewer in question was a completely unique individual and that he liked you just the way you are. Mr. Rogers wasn't like Sesame Street or your public school teaching numbers and alphabets and how to say hi in Tagalog. He taught us how to deal with emotions and proved to us that we didn't need to fear falling through the drain, or not to be afraid during a haircut, or how to deal with the death of a pet or even the divorce of your parents. He also showed us how things worked or were manufactured like crayons. I actually remember that episode quite well. He also answered every single piece of fan mail himself. When he'd get nervous or anxious, Mr. Rogers would sit at the piano and play the theme song to his show to calm himself down. He never swore and used the word mercy in place of profanity. For 895 episodes on PBS, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was filmed from start to finish each time, meaning there was no stock footage of Fred Rogers playing the piano and singing, or him switching out his shoes and sweater. That all happened every episode, for 895 episodes. On top of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, he also did some other things, like nearly single-handedly getting PBS's government funding increased from $8 million to $22 million by a rousing speech you can find on YouTube. And then during the 70s, while most TV show hosts and such were complaining and trying to get VCR laws set up so that people couldn't record their shows, Fred Rogers spearheaded the case in favor of pre-recording devices, stating that it would help bring families closer together, and that if they could watch the shows together, families would be more likely to watch his and other shows like his. I don't need to tell you which side won that case, but let's pause while I paint you a very scary picture. If those VCR recording laws had passed, well, TiVo would not be a thing. Video rental stores would have been heavily regulated, and that would mean that Netflix and Hulu might not even exist. So, thank you, Mr. Rogers, for helping bring entertainment to what it is today. But, were he alive today, Mr. Rogers probably wouldn't accept the credit for such a hefty achievement. The man was so humble and just so gosh darn neighborly, he never took credit for his work. Twice, Mr. Rogers was awarded for his accomplishments, and in both times, he flipped the award ceremony on its head. He encouraged those who were there to think back on the people who had a deep impact on making them who they are today. He would then tell us to take a 10-second moment of silence for those who we've lost along the way and those who are still with us, just to think about them and the impact they've made on our lives. Fred Rogers was a humble man who accomplished so much. He was full of love for everyone around us, and he was just the best neighbor a person could ask for. He was also a Presbyterian minister, but you may never have guessed that because he never pushed or shoved his religion on you. His was a ministry led by example. With all of his accomplishments and such, the man is not only a badass, but also a modern-day legend, with people making up stuff about him just to make sense of him. Some stories claim that he was a battle-hardened veteran and he wore sweaters all the time to hide his myriad of tattoos. Those are obvious bald-faced lies and have been disproven time and time again. So why they keep cropping up, I don't know. There was a story that Mr. Rogers' car had been stolen and that he reported it as such, and that it made headlines in the local Pittsburgh newspaper. When the criminals found out about it, they returned the car the next night with a simple letter stating if they had known it was his, they never would have stolen it. Again, it might just be a story, but part of me kind of wishes that was true. Back in the 80s, there was a lot of spoofs of Mr. Rogers, including Eddie Murphy's Not Safe for Work version on Saturday Night Live. One of the other spoofs was a version of Mr. Rogers that was used by the Burger King franchise. Mr. Rodney, as he was called, pitched the company's fast food burgers. Mr. Rogers did not sue. He did not lash out. He did not accuse them of anything, really. Instead, all he did was held a press conference in which he stated he did not endorse the company's use of his character or likeness, and that it was very misleading to children, and Burger King immediately pulled the ads and apologized. In 2002, he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Then in 2003, after Fred Rogers had passed away, the U.S. Senate unanimously agreed to pass Resolution 16 to commemorate the life of Fred Rogers. And what is even more amazing is that the same year, the U.S. House of Representatives, all 430 plus of them, voted unanimously to pass Resolution 111, honoring Rogers for, quote, his legendary service to the improvement of the lives of children, his steadfast commitment to demonstrating the power of compassion, and his dedication to spreading kindness through example. Why is this so amazing? The House of Representatives hardly agrees unanimously on anything, even declaring war on Japan in World War II after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. That met with opposition. But for Fred Rogers, no one spoke against honoring a man who spent his entire life serving others. So what do you think? Did you grow up watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood? Who was your favorite character? And what do you think his impact on our society was today? I have my opinion, of course, but I'd like to hear yours. So shoot me a comment, and don't forget to like and subscribe, neighbor.